everyone, this is Catching Up with the Nerds with your hosts, Tom and JC. This is a podcast about two dads that are catching up on all the nerdy stuff we missed, sharing how we pass on our nerdy passions to our kids, and deep diving into nerd pop culture to make it more accessible for you. Welcome back.
Hello. Oh,
Yo.
That was loud. So you're back. You're back.
I'm back, man.
Your week of vacation holiday.
My sabbatical. My sabbatical for sure. I want to find myself again, Tom, and go yes. What can I do? What can I do to make the show more interesting? And I had no real good ideas.
You had nothing. No epiphany.
I had nothing.
Okay, that's fine.
I had nothing. But I heard Sarah held down the fort, man. Always love a good guest, and Sarah's one of my favorites. So I'm glad that she was on.
And she'll be back.
She's
listening. She'll be back. Oh.
There you go.
Let me talk to the people. Let's talk to the people. Shall we introduce ourselves and then we'll talk real good?
Sure, go for it, buddy.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Tom. I'm half of the Catching Up with the Nerd podcast. I'm the little French guy in the Franco-Honduran podcast that we are.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's how I want to say. Been married for a while to my lovely wife Elizabeth, and I've got two kids, one who's 4 named Louis, and another one who's about to be 12 in August, named Emily. We are all nerds, especially my kids. They're more nerdy than I am, but you know, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. And we all love video games, comics, anime, and I think that's about it. What about you, sir?
Yeah, so I am Juan Garay, but he calls me JC. I am originally from Honduras, but got to Portland, Oregon, where I live now, via London, where I met Tom. And along the way, I managed to marry a wonderful woman named Fiorella and have 2 kids. One that will also be 12 in August and is also a huge nerd, nice. Particularly in the anime space. He is nerdy beyond belief and has started watching The Flash show, which I'm very proud of. It was like, DC in the house.
Yes.
And a little girl, so I was Aiden, my 12-year-old, and a little girl that is now 6 years old named Arabelle, and she is starting her nerd adventures with My Little Pony, and which is a whole universe.
Yep.
In case you didn't know.
The Ponyverse.
And that's a whole other conversation. But and that's it. And I love my graphic novels. I love a good nerdy show. I love a good nerdy novel, and occasionally dabble in video games. That's me.
All right, excellent. So this week, what are we on about? A little Marvel show that you guys may have heard about. It's the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So we were covering WandaVision on a weekly basis. And that was tiring. So because we are slightly lazy and we are dads, so we don't have all day, all the time in the world, we thought, you know what, this is just 6 episodes. We'll cover 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll do another episode with 4, 5, 6. So this is not a plot review or anything. It's just a broader review episode where we'll dive into what we think the bigger themes are, and what we liked, what we didn't like, and where we think this is going. So this is it.
And to your point, Tom, this is almost like the mid-season review, right? It's like we're halfway through, and we might apply this to some of the other Marvel shows that don't, like Wanda just allowed itself to be talked about on a weekly basis, whereas I feel this doesn't. But it's a good time to do it right now, like mid-season.
That's absolutely true, and it's Easter Sunday, so I'm gonna use my wife's jokes, and she said, "Good, get your eggs." We won't talk Easter eggs. I don't want to talk about Easter eggs. I got burned by WandaVision with that.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that in a bit, of course. But yes, for those who are listening today or tomorrow, the day after, I hope you had a good Easter day, or are having a good Easter day, or a good Easter weekend. Whatever rocks your boat. Anyway, shall we proceed and get on with it? Because there's a lot to cover, but we'll try to make it as short as we can. Not short, good quality.
Before we start, shall we do our and at some point we're gonna slice in like a theme song here, going like da 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 da, the Nerd Minute. What have we been nerding about this week, Tom?
Oh wow, well, JC. Oh wow, that sounds professional. Yeah, I'm looking for music. Yeah, I will add some music in there at some point. Nerding out about a little game that came out a while ago. Actually, it's Cyberpunk, which came out,
Yeah.
I think, well, I can't remember, like a few months ago, but that was a highly anticipated game, and it had a lot of well, it won a lot of awards before it came out, which is still a mystery to me how you win awards before a game is actually out, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
And again, highly anticipated by everyone. It came out in a bit of a shit show, because it was
I
a
heard.
finished product. It had a lot of crashes and bugs that would literally crash your consoles or your PC if you're playing on PC. Um, a lot of weird physics, like a lot of weird physics in the game. Like you have flying cars, but they're not supposed to be flying, or just people reacting weird, and graphics that would look odd.
Hmm.
So they've fixed a lot of those bugs with the release of a patch a couple of days ago, and I saw that, I was like, might be a good time to get into it. So I got myself off Amazon, big
Yeah.
evil corporation, and I went there and I went, okay, I want that game. Got it, and I've been enjoying that. Really
Oh,
enjoyable.
so they fixed it. Okay, good.
They fixed a lot of things. So if you go on their website, there's like a long page of patch 1.22 release
Yeah.
notes, and it's like points after points after points. It's an endless list of stuff they fixed. So I think it's working fine. There should be a PlayStation 5 upgrade coming up soon, so it'll look even better, but it looks already amazing. But yeah, that's what I've been doing this week. It's just I just thinking about it makes me want to play it again. So I might do that after the podcast. Relieve those.
And
Yep.
is it 12-year-old friendly?
No, it's an 18.
Oh.
Absolutely. 18. Yeah.
And you would agree that it's 18, or because sometimes those ratings are a bit
no.
janky.
There's
Oh, yeah,
violence.
okay.
There's violence, there's nudity from the start. There's swearing, there's everything that you shouldn't show your kids. I mean, you you spend the first 20 minutes creating your own characters, modeling your character that you can, whatever it's called, the classic things you do from on any RPG games.
Yeah.
And it's first time ever in a game that they let you choose between having a male parts or female parts, and you actually see it. It's like you can.
Oh, right. Okay.
So just not to go into too much details, but you can even choose the length of your manhood.
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay, that's pretty out there. And then one of the first scene has female nudity. It's one of the first missions. So I was like, yay.
You have answered my question very well,
So
sir.
you cannot, yeah. It's not. I wouldn't advise for having your kids unless you're okay with it. But as
Yeah, no, and yeah, exactly, and no judgment, but yeah, okay. We have given our disclaimer. We have given our common sense media review of it.
Yeah, common sense media, exactly. That's what we do now. What about you? What'd you get?
Yeah, so no, actually, just finishing two things. Just finishing up Doomsday Clock. So it's the DC run that was put out by Jeff Johns. So it's collected in a volume set. I think it's like a 13 issue run or something like that. And for anybody who's not familiar with it, Doomsday Clock is basically the crossover between Watchmen and the DC universe. So the premise of it is, I mean, for anybody, spoiler alert, if you haven't read Watchmen, skip ahead like the next 25 seconds or whatever. But at the end of Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan just gets bored with that world and goes away. Dr. Manhattan is like a super being, right? And he's got, I'm out, like this is kind of boring to me. And the premise is like, what if Dr. Manhattan shows up in the version of Earth across the multiverse that's the DC version of Earth, where we see like the superheroes we know. And he shows up and starts manipulating the superheroes there. And it's really fun, actually, but it's one of those that it's very plot heavy. Like a lot of stuff is happening. There's like an alternate version of Rorschach. You get to see like Superman and Batman. Of course, like they've got the amazing panel where like you see Batman and Rorschach like staring each other down, which is awesome because the Rorschach was kind of an analog in some ways of
yes.
Batman. So there's a lot of really cool like fan stuff in there, but also the plot's really heavy, like really heavy plot. So I'm in like literally like the last 20 pages. I'm going to finish off tonight. And I just hope it pays off. But so far it's been a fun ride. So I recommend it to everyone. It's super fun, like comic run.
Okay, well, as usual, I'm saying the same, but I might get into it.
Add it to the
I have
list.
to actually. I have to get my comic book game way up. I need to get back into it. I've got a bunch of them just in my library, and I've not touched them just yet.
Nice.
Sad.
Nice.
Right. All right, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
Shall we do what we were doing with the WandaVision episodes, which is your overall what you thought about?
Yeah.
Not the episode, but the first 3 episodes. What's your take on it? Have you enjoyed all of it?
I will let you go first because
okay.
I think I might be more critical. I think.
So I know what you mean. We've got our little spreadsheet as usual, and from the first we don't deviate too much. I think our opinions are slightly similar, but I think it's a good buddy comedy show. Somehow there's some things in there that remind me of those 80s action buddy comedy. It's like either series or movies, right? There's something in there. So the review of the first 3 episodes is like, okay, I enjoyed episode 3. I thought it was great. First 2 eps slow as hell. I get it that it needs to reset and sort of reframe the story again back into where we are and what happened, and sort of recap. But it wasn't that bad. It's just slightly slower. I wish again, it's like, I think it's like WandaVision. We said the same. The first 2 episodes, you could have made it into 1 episode and then get on with it. I think it's sort of the same with this one. I thought you could have done what they've done over the first 2, get it into 1, maybe slightly longer episode 1, but it would have worked. It would have worked too. And I think that the one thing I really love about those first 3 episodes is the themes, which we'll again elaborate on in a second. But the themes that I talked about, I think are very they're very, very much with the times we're in right now. And they're very important. And I think it's really cool that Marvel is digging into those themes. I think that's pretty much it. But again, and the overall not some, I was going to say some, it's not the word I'm looking for. The overall feeling I have about the show is that that should have been released before WandaVision, I think, in the schedule. And I think it's a bit, again, it's my opinion or my feeling only, but it does feel like it's kind of suffering in what the way people see it and the way people are enjoying it from coming after WandaVision.
Yeah,
as in WandaVision was such a massive bang from the start. It's nice. This is what's coming next, and you're like, okay, it's cool. It's more of an action show, whereas WandaVision was more about magical beings and stuff. So this is a bit more, reality based, I'd say. But again, it's a totally 2 different shows. So I'm trying to be very mindful not to compare the 2 of them too much.
Correct. Yep.
But I know online there's been a lot of discussions like saying, oh, well, WandaVision's better. I'm like, okay, but it's 2 different separate projects. So, but sorry, the back of my head, I still feels like, oh, WandaVision was a bit more enjoyable and this is a bit slower, but it's its own show. It's its own thing. It's different. We shouldn't compare them. So that's where I'm at right now.
And also the stakes are very different. Like this is like Earth level stakes. And the funny part is that at the end of the day, the stakes in Wanda were actually just a town, but we kept thinking it was like universe altering states, right? It's like we thought like everything's going to change. So that's like it felt like it operated in a different level where this feels more grounded. It's like, it's like Baron Zemo, like he doesn't have any like superpowers, right? It's like there's no magic. And to their point about like
he's Batman, he's got money. That's his superpower.
Yeah, exactly. And to their point about what is it, robots, wizards, and aliens. It's like that's a perfect. Like, it's none of those things, right? In this show, and that's a perfect way of setting it, right? My overall feeling is like I've enjoyed it for sure, like definitely enjoyed it, but for all the reasons I thought I wouldn't. So I'm enjoying it less as a buddy comedy or like buddy action comedy, and I'm enjoying it more as like a spy thriller. Like that's the part that's like clicking with me. We'll get into it, but the buddy comedy part for me is like falling flat on its face. Like I'm really not there for it. And I'll talk more later. But overall, I think having said that, I think it's super enjoyable, solid show. Like I really like. I think it's well done. And the biggest thing I'm taking away to your point about like it starts off slow. Very much not like Wanda, but to your point, we shouldn't compare, but I am. This feels like a long movie. Like it feels like at the end of the third episode, we're setting up the second act. Like as soon as they get to like Zemo, it's like, oh, that's the second act. That makes total sense. So that's why it kind of starts off, slow, wraps up. So it's like it could be a long movie, like a 6-hour movie easily. And I'm kind of enjoying that actually. Like I like it. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
it's it's interesting that I just don't. It's sort of annoying me that we comparing it, and even if we don't do it on purpose, but like that we're comparing it to WandaVision because it's totally different. It's two different settings. It's two different storyline, not storyline, but two different realities in a way. It's two different worlds almost. I lost my point. The thing is, God, I forgot. Damn it! No, I had a very good point. No.
About how Zemo even has like a butler, kind of like Alfred.
Yeah, well, he's Batman. He's
totally Batman in this.
Well, yes, that was my point. And I won't cut that, but I will leave it all in because it's the Sunday every night. It's my present to you guys. You'll see.
Let's keep it real.
Let's keep it real, like the show is. I think Winter Soldier is going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be a bit like Civil War because we're watching Civil War now last night with the family, just to sort of understand where the Falcon and Winter Soldier story comes from and where it left off and why everything is the way it is in that show. And rewatching Civil War to us when we watch it as a family doing the whole Marvel Universe thing. Civil War was like, okay, it's a good film, and now rewatching it again, it's like actually it's such an important film within the entire universe. It's like a pivotal moment in the entire story, right? There's so many things happening in there that are defining the rest of the story, the way where people interact with each other within the team and how they go in different ways and how they reconnect and how they save the world ultimately. And I think there's going to be the same thing here with this show, and it's going to be looked at. When as you're watching it, you'll be like, all right, it's good, it's solid. Mm-hmm. And then in a couple of years' time, you'll maybe go back to it, and you'll be like, those things the events that took place in this series, they were so very important to the rest of the storyline. I don't know about it yet. I'm just
no. I 100% agree, dude. I think they're setting up a lot. And if anything, and I've got like a whole segment, like a whole part that I would talk about that they're setting up, I think, too much. Like, I don't know how they're going to land everything. Possibly. There's a lot being set up.
But again, and that's where I don't agree with a lot of people online. Again, it's like there's people are like bashing the ending of WandaVision, like, we didn't get answers for this and that. I'm like, yeah, okay, not now. You'll get those answers in the films like in 2, 3, 4 years down the line. Yep. It's not everything is meant to be answers. You're not supposed to get answers from these shows. Like every single plot point and questions you've got, you're not going to get them now. And you should know by now, like if you've been following Marvel for the last 10 years, you should know by now you're not going to get answers. Well, you're likely to get answers for most of the things, but not right away. Correct. The payoff is not right now. And it's even better than getting those payoffs now. Like it's getting those payoffs in 5, 6 years. I'm all there. Like I like that, remembering.
I mean, look at the payoff of Endgame. I still go back to my favorite scene, Endgame, on your left, Cap.
Yeah.
That was set up like easily like 5 years or more. Yeah, it was like so long. So yeah, no, I'm there for it for sure, and I think this show's gonna do a lot of that. Shall we dive into the themes then?
Yes. What do you want to talk about first? What's the first thing that you think?
I mean, I think we have to touch on the one that I think is maybe not surprising, but I think to your point is very important. It's like the theme of racism in the show. Yeah, it's front and center. It's in your face, and I'm loving it.
So I think the favorite scene from Ellie's point of view, like we're watching it together, and she love air quotes that scene in the bank. Do you remember when Sam goes with his sister and trying to get a loan, and there's an explanation to, and it is very racial heavy in that sense. But then her favorite second scene actually is the one where Sam is hanging out. What's his face? Isaiah's house.
Yeah, Isaiah Bradley.
Episode 2?
Yes.
Is that episode 2? That's episode 2.
That is episode 2.
Yeah. Where suddenly the cops show up just because there's a white dude talking to a black dude, and it's like, what's going on there? Yeah. And Ellie was like, oh, that's interesting. They've put that in there, because usually that's not the sort of scenes you would see in superhero movies. Not at all, right? And I think she loved those two, and she said, the fact that it's in there is very interesting. So yeah, and like you said, it's very interesting that they are touching upon that subject, because that's a very, 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 very raw and touchy subject, and there's very hard discussions to be had with that. So,
and it's something that the comics have never shied away from, right? So I'm glad that it's finally making its way into the MCU. And I just think that they've taken very interesting moments to highlight that, right? It's like the fact that they were just they were coming out of Isaiah Bradley's house, and they picked that moment. They picked the first show to like really like show you the life of Sam, right? It's like we never got a backstory for Sam for outside of like, oh yeah, he works with like at the veterans, like with veterans and like helping them with like mental health or something, and that's as much as we got. And he just likes to run laps around the Lincoln Monument, right? And now we get to see his sister, but also like the struggle she's had the whole time that everybody was away during the blip, the implications of that on her, and like their roots in Louisiana, like all that stuff. Is like, I really love that story, but that has to be rooted in something more for Sam. And just like instantly in that first episode, like countering him giving up the shield, trying to do the right thing. And then at the same time, that bank scene, you're like, that's why it doesn't work, man. That's why the country's broken. It's like it should never be that way. And then when the loan officer, that's the part that really gets like, it boiled my blood to what had happened, because it's like they're going like, no, you never get it because of this and that, even though you're an Avenger. And they starts talking about like, where do you have your income from? And then of course we once again we go back into like Avenger financial status that we kind of touched on with like Vision having a will, and like, sure, there's some financial planners out there salivating to like get a hold of like the Avengers and figure out their whole financial situation. But I mean, it's like he touches on that, but then he asks them for the selfie, and that's the part that got me, man. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But that's what would happen. That's totally what would happen.
He went, "Hey, F your life, but can I get a selfie real quick?" Like,
totally.
Actually,
I'm like.
The funny thing though, I saw that something completely unexpected I saw on Twitter after that, right after the episode show aired. It was people saying, "Oh, how come Tony Stark didn't leave any money behind for the Avengers? For everyone in there, he should have left a little something in there." I was like, "Well, he was bankrolling everything anyway already. All the tech was paid and made by Tony Stark's, and everything else was done by him." But anyway, I thought that was a bit of a pointless debate that was going on online. I was like, okay, fine. Sure, if you want to go there. But yeah, that whole scene, I was like, oh my god, it made me angry. I was like, it's not even like, okay, you don't know what Sam's doing. Like, he's an Avenger. He's not trying to abuse the system and trying to get a loan because he's trying to. No, he's trying really hard to make things right. And it's just weird that that scene I was the same. Yeah, when he was like, oh, the disconnect from the guy is like, no, I don't want to give you money. Can I get a selfie now?
Because you look at like if he would have just kept the shield, that scene would have not been necessary. Like he could have just milked it, because we see that in the next episode with John Walker just going on all these like press meetings and like being on Good Morning America and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, Sam could have just milked it, and he did the right thing. And guess what happened? He got screwed over. I'm like, dude, that classic textbook American screw-overism. It's like every
Capitalism
time.
101.
Yep, totally.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Capitalism 101. So Yeah, so that's one of the themes. But the other one that to me was like I was once again surprised they leaned into it again because they did it in WandaVision is
Yeah,
mental
yep,
health with Bucky,
yep.
and we got that in the first episode, which I thought was one of the better moments of like the whole show is like Bucky's list. In what we go to find out that is actually Cap's notebook. That's actually
Yes,
remember that
yeah,
Cap had the notebook where it was
yeah.
like things that I want to do that I missed out on, right? And I'm like,
It's
I
the
just
same.
think it's a really cool shout out to like he also has like a list. His list is a little sadder than Cap's list, but yeah, the part when he goes on the date, it was
Oh
just so sad,
yeah.
man.
Oh Jesus.
It hit hard, man, like really hard. That was
Man, no,
tough.
it was the yeah, and the one when he's like he's also trying to do the right thing, and it's like when he's talking to the Japanese dad, and it's like, oh God, like to know that he's killed the son. Yeah, it's like he's killed his son. It's like, oh, but he's also trying to be cool with him and trying to tell him the truth, but he can't really because then he's gonna break his heart. It's like, oh,
That was a tough one.
yeah. Mm. Mental health. Yeah, it's nice that they approach it again. It's again that's that surprising that they touch upon that again, but it's got and that's one of the points I had later on in the list, which was the superhero life is not just all, you know, people looking up to them and having that awesome life and driving fast cars, but it's also a lot of consequences for their actions and a lot of about how their past is screwing their present and potentially their future. So I thought it's really good that we see that because it's far away from the entire like sort of shallowness that we could see in other comics or other universes when it's like, well, he's a superhero.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
he can do whatever he wants. Doesn't matter.
No,
I think your next point is my favorite one.
Yeah, no, it's to me the top three themes are like the racism theme, the mental health theme, and then there's like a society as a whole theme there around like for some people things were better during the blip, and it's like we still feel like Thanos' influence across all the show, and that's something that I really like because it connects it back to Endgame, and I see why this was gonna follow after Endgame. Right, because you can still feel that Thanos impact of just like, yeah, some people decided that actually Thanos was onto something, right? And
you know what? I've had a
worth-
discussion a lot with people about like, was Thanos actually like, okay, the actions he's taken and killing a bunch of people, that's horrible, but like there's a lot of people that agree with him. They're saying that he's got a point though. He like at the end of the day, he's got a massive point because it's like resources are limited. All he's trying to do is trying to look out for people that make sure that entire races and entire planets can survive and carry on. And like even I remember walking out of Infinity Wars and I went, huh, he might have a point.
It's kind of like someone decided like, you know what, we're all treating like a vegan somewhere, we're all treating animals really badly, let's just kill all the humans. And I'm like, that works out really well for the animals, but you still can't condone like mass murder. That's the thing. And that's like the means will never justify the end. And then we're leaning into that theme again of like the means don't always justify the end, right? And then with the flag smashers. So that's another theme that I'm like, I'm really interested to see where it goes because it sets up and there's some stuff here that we probably touch on in the next section, but it's like I'm still not 100% sure who the big bad is, if I'm being honest. But I like how they've set up the flag smashers as ambiguously bad because they're definitely not painting them as total a-holes. We develop some level of whether it be empathy or sympathy for that the lead person in this flag smashers, the woman, I forget her name. Yeah. And we get to kind of connect with her and like moments of tenderness that she has and like her thought process and stuff like that. So I like that it's not just unanimously like, oh no, this is a big bad, this is Steppenwolf, he's a bad guy. It's like it's not that.
And that's something I really like because I think the whole bad guy just being there because he wants blood and guts and just want to create chaos and just get your planet and that's been done and overdone so often. Like, okay, you can have it still like in the Justice League. That was really that was there because that's the story. That's fine. I don't expect much more from the bad guy. but like especially in the Marvel universe, you can't just drop a monster and then who's just bloodthirsty. You have to have more of a gray area and more of a balanced approach for this. It's like, and again, that's to your point, which is, yeah, we don't know if they are the big bad guys. Like, okay, their actions can be reprehensible at times, you know, like blowing up the car in episode 3 in front of building they steal full. That's a horrible thing.
Yep.
But then what they're trying to do, you can look at it and you can certainly understand why they're taking the actions they're taking. So that's something that I really like. That's probably one of the things I enjoy the most, actually. It's like trying to work out who they are and what they want to do and where they're going with this. And I agree with you. I don't think they are the big bad guys. I don't think this is who we're chasing in that story.
I agree. I think that it'll get interesting who it becomes.
Absolutely. I think we're going more towards the what's the other guy? The
power broker.
Power broker.
Best name ever.
That's I'm sure that's made a lot of people who are in finance very excited. A power broker. So yeah, it's really interesting. I'm really enjoying that. I'm not trying to look into too much in terms of like who they are. Like I understand their IDs. I understand what they're trying to do, and I think that's really cool to see that there's a little bit more. It's not black and white entirely, and that's really not refreshing, but it's really cool to again have that sort of baddies in there. Right.
So is this a good pivot into what we liked? And I'll let you lead because I think that you've got some good points that I might have a different opinion to.
So, yeah, my first point, which you'll disagree right away because you already mentioned it, was the banter between Sam and Bucky. And I actually, you didn't like them, I know, but I actually like the one when at the end of episode 3 when Baron Zemo gets his car, and then Bucky is on the passenger seat, and then you've got Sam. Oh. I like that little interaction there when he goes, "So you're not going to move your seat?" Bang! Flashback to Civil War. I was like,
that was good. That was good.
But again, back into the interaction, I also like that therapy scene when they're acting like a married couple, and the therapist is making them sit facing each other, and they have to. I'm surprised you don't like that. I thought it was cool. I thought it was funny.
It is my least favorite scene of the entire show. I have to be honest. Even Sharon Carter's fake fighting was better than that scene.
Yeah, there's a lot of fake fighting. I agree. Yeah, but
and I'll tell you why. It is completely unearned.
Okay.
They come together. They just like throw them together for like no good reason. Right, like Bucky just goes looks up for Sam. He's about to go into mission. He's like, "Okay, I'll tag along." We're like, "Yeah, dude,
but
you have a passport."
History. They have history.
They have history.
Yeah,
but in the history, this is not where their relationship was. Maybe I need to go back and rewatch Civil War because I feel like at Civil War they weren't at each other's throats at the end of Civil War. They were
not at each other's throat, but like throughout the entire movie. There's little jabs that they throw at each other. Like the fight scene at the airport, for example, when they both get destroyed. I was gonna say destroyed. Yeah, they get beaten up by Spider-Man, and then they get to the floor, and it's like they have their little talk, and it's like Bucky says, "Oh, I hate you," but as a funny comedic interaction. So they did have those little banter coming back and forth, going back and forth, and that buddy type relationship. So it's not. I don't think that's evolved too much. I think that it's pretty consistent with what they had.
But that's what I'm there for. So that's why to me the car scene was good. The therapy scene I thought was too in your face because their relationship has always been like they're doing stuff together, but like with the jabs. So there's like little jab here, little jab there, little jab here. Like I'm kind of annoyed at you, but I'm still going to show up and have your back. And this is very much like confrontational. I'm like, why would they be confrontational? Like I don't see anything in their character that says they should be confrontational to each other, but I do see like I'm annoyed at each other. That I get. Like so that's why I'm there for the scenes where I actually thought their relationship got better when Baron Zemo showed up. Yeah,
so it's funny that you mentioned that because to me, I think they both of them represent a side of Captain America, something that has always been a conflict within Steve Rogers / Captain America. So you've seen, especially if you go back to Civil War, you see that conflict because Captain America is somebody that will always take one for the team, that was always trying to be the guy that is there to do the right thing and trying to make sure that, you see something going bad, he'll get to, jump, get his body into the fire and trying to fix things. But also on saying that, he's got his flip side, which is also he's okay with disregarding an order and going against the rules. Again, if you go back to Civil War, he's directly against the Sokovian Accords. I can never say that word again.
Yeah, he goes rogue, right?
Yeah, he goes rogue, and that's why you see him only in Infinity War. After that, coming back from a 2 years, 2 years hiatus, I was going to say, but like he's been in hiding. So I think both of these characters. So you've got Sam on the one hand, that is like, who's like the mirror of Captain America in a way that he's like trying to serve as the voice of reason. He's the guy that he's going to do the right thing. He's going to try to not break the rules and trying to be straight with everyone and trying to put his body on the line and trying to again fight for what's right. That's the bottom line with the Captain America character. It's like he was going to fight for what's right, what he thinks is right. Bucky, on the other hand, is more like following the ideology of Captain America and trying to get the job done regardless of what it takes. And if that means breaking the rules, then he'll do it. But at the end of the day, they both of them serve the same purpose. It's two different ways of going about it. And that was within the character of Captain America and Steve Rogers. They both had to do what's right, but sometimes it takes breaking the law, which is and that contradicts the Captain America ideology anyway, because he's supposed to be by the law and following orders and that. But Steve Rogers had the other side of him, which was, I'm going to do and do what I think is right. And that means I'm going to break all the accords. I'll do it.
Dude,
that's what they are. Bucky does that.
I had not thought of this at all. And now it's kind of a little bit like making like the dots connect on something that I'm like, wait a second. Because I know we were going to do like speculation mode about like in the same way of Wanda, but there is something about it though that is really interesting. That is, I think that. Oh, thank you. I got hot water delivered straight to me.
Coffee o'clock.
Coffee o'clock. Thank you very much. So there is something really interesting that could develop in that. We keep thinking there's going to be one Captain America, and another ongoing plot point is like who's going to be that, because it's not going to be John Walker, right? At the end of the day, will it be Sam? Will it be Bucky? Will it be somebody else? Or will it be? And he just made me think of like maybe it's both, and really that's why it is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Maybe at the end, like, and would it be so baller if there's like an action scene at the end where they're both like using the shield in their own way, like. Bucky like throws a shield at someone, is like bounces off something, and then like Sam catches it in the air while he's flying, and then like throws it off something else, and like they have like this whole interaction where they use the shield together. It would be kind of baller, I think, if that happened.
But in the comics, cool. they both serve as Captain America at some point. I think Bucky is the one that takes over right after Steve Rogers, and after that, there's another run where Sam is Captain America. So it could be both. I mean, it's again going back Civil War. There's a fight scene against Iron Man at the end where we've got Bucky and Captain America throwing each other the shield just to beat up on Iron Man. So you see it happening. Yeah. And I agree. I think, did I put that in my prediction points? I think I put that Sam would be Captain America, but the more I think about it, I think that duty could be shared between the two of them.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah, and it's in the show title, right? It's the same way like we talked about WandaVision.
Exactly.
It's like, at the end of the day, it was a show about WandaVision. Surprise! This is a show about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, all right, cool, dude. Awesome point. Loving it, man. Loving it.
I think the other things we'll go through my other points of the things I like. I think quickly. I think that's one of yours. That the club scene with Zemo dancing was baller.
So fucking I love that.
And I was like, the whole club scene, I was like, oh, this is how I want my 40th birthday party to be, like just slick club and people having a good time. That's not gonna happen, but not the point. I thought that scene was quite funny, and see him dancing, I was almost choked on my water.
It was the nerdiest dance in the world. And it was so what you would think that Baron Zemo would do.
Yes.
It wasn't cool anyway. It was like straight out of like, did you watch the Eurovision movie with like Will
Of
Ferrell?
course.
It totally felt right in place with
Yes.
any scene in that movie, and I loved it for it. Like the fact that Marvel did that, I'm like, Marvel, chef's kiss, man. It's
Carry
like
on.
so
Carry on.
nice. Please, more of that. I love those moments.
And then the other thing I like, talking about Zemos, it's us getting a new backstory, sort of, because if you remember the backstory of Zemo's backstory in Civil War, it's about him being part of the Sokovian army,
Yeah,
and having his wife, his son, and his dad died as a result of the fight between the Avengers and Ultron.
yep.
I think the backstory, and that was him trying to getting revenge on the Avengers, getting them to kill each other basically,
Yep.
as revenge. I think this one as a is the backstory deviates a little bit. So now he's rich, he's Batman rich. He's got his own butler, he's got his own plane, he's got a fleet of cars, so he's very Batman-y. And that's that deviation from the origin stories that we've got in Civil War. Not the same thing. I'm okay with it. That changes it. It's sort of odd now, because again, it's ignoring a little bit of what happened in Civil War in a way, if you know what I mean. Because it's two different. Like, he's no longer the guy from the army. Now it's somebody who's like, well, I've got cash money. Doesn't mean he can't be in the army, but it to me opens the door to, like, I've got a bunch of questions about this. I'm like, okay, so was he rich like already in Civil War? Was that something that I don't know why that wasn't included?
It was a shout out to, in the comics, he's rich.
Yes, in the comic,
it's actually
yeah.
It's Civil War that deviates from the comics. And the thing about it is, you think about that character in Civil War, that character, I think that for Civil War, the way they portrayed him actually is very nice. Civil War is a movie that initially I was on the fence about, and then I came back and really appreciated it. And in his character is one of the ones that that's made me really appreciate that movie. And in particular, it's like, he plays like the how to put it, is like the everyday person. Like, what if the everyday person wanted to get rid of superheroes? What would be his motivations? Yeah, like his family was impacted by superheroes, right? So it gives you like an everyday perspective, because that's something that Whedon kind of built into that, like that storyline coming off the back of Ultron, of just like the impact of people in Sokovia and what happened to Sokovians off the back of what happened in Ultron. That carries forward in Civil War. So I was appreciative that that was a more grounded character. But the problem is that character wouldn't have any legs beyond that, because he doesn't have any superpowers, to your point. Right? So you got to give him the shout out to Snyderverse. It's like Flash asking Batman, "What's your superpower?" It's like, "I'm rich," right? I'm rich. So that's the only way that character becomes a big bad that's meaningful, is like, he's got to be rich. And then it makes sense, because if it's just a dude, he no longer has a super serum. He's in jail. What's the point of having him? He has some knowledge. They can get that knowledge from him, and he's done. But making him rich makes this more interesting. Like, he has the ability of escaping and actually launching on like a full-on like plot about him again, right? So I like the pivot, but I agree. It is like a bit of a retcon.
It's slightly odd. It's like, a little bit. And I think that's taking me into my next point, which is what you said, the consequences of their actions in terms of superheroes and the universe, the world they live in. And I think that's really, really cool that it's still it's still something that is part of the universe, because they do talk about that a lot in the Marvel universe. It's not something that is new, but I'm quite glad that we still have things happening now, and what's happening is still directly connected to the actions they've taken 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago in previous movies, and that's really cool. And also, to the same point, is something I wrote. I would say families. So that's more to the Sam stories. Going back to that, which is not directly benefit. Like, not everyone in the family benefits from their success or their famousness. I like that word. It's like when you see with sports people, like basketball players and football players or soccer players for you, like, everybody eats, they have one guy who's super famous, the rest of the family doesn't have to live off their success. And that's sort of the opposite there. It's like, well, yeah, like he's famous, Sam's famous, but that doesn't mean the rest of the family is famous. Like, they're not in the spotlight. And you think Sam, again, like we were saying before, he might have a little bit of cash, but that's not the same thing for the rest of the
Sure.
family, right? They've not, at least from that aspect, enjoyed the same success. Last thing, the new Captain America. That's one of the things I loved.
Yeah.
And you have it. I think you said that you love to hate him.
Yep. Love
So
to
you
hate
said?
that guy.
Same
He's
for me.
so hateable. He's got a face you want to punch.
And I love
It's
the actor.
such good cast.
That dude's been in a bunch of movies always as a B-roll, but like every time he's been in anything, he's been always really cool. But also when he came out at the end of episode 1, I was like, this guy looks like Casey Neistat. If you don't know who that is, go on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't him. But yeah, so
you're right. I didn't think of that. He
that
totally
shot
looked
from
like
below is like
yeah.
Casey Neistat. No, and it's interesting that so if you look at it, yeah, it's a new Captain America. You know it's not going to be Captain America for long because it's not the point of the show. And there's a lot of people again online that are going, "Oh, I don't like the new one." Just wait, chill. It'll be there. It'll happen by the end of the series where it's not going to be Captain America anymore. What I like about it is like it shows how you can use power, and you not just power in terms of being a super soldier. I'm talking like power in terms of what it brings, like what's involved around that, how you can use it differently to achieve goals, and how you can abuse your power. There's one scene in episode 3 when he goes to, like, I think they're in Berlin or something like that, and he's trying to look for the lady in a flag smasher.
Yeah,
and he goes physical, like he gets spat at, like by the guy, the club owner. It's not a club. It's not in a club. It's in the, what was it, like some sort of house, whatever. Let's call it the house owner. And the guy doesn't want to help him out, and Captain America gets violent. And gets physical.
Well, also he pulls out the gun and shoots. So even though Captain America did it in the first Avenger, but he doesn't do it towards the end of the Infinity Saga. He never pulls out the gun. And I think he curses, which Cap was very against cursing, right?
Language,
so already,
yes.
Language. So already, and those are little things I feel are very intentional to let us feel like he stands for a lot of the things that Captain America in theory stands for, but he doesn't act like Captain America. What you stand for and how you act has to match up, and there's a disconnect in what he stands for, how he's acting.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a great casting. Actually, honestly, that guy was getting so much hate because it's like he's just so easy to hate. And it's great. Like that's
the mark of a good actor. If you're easy to hate, and if people like really, really can't stand the side of you, that means you're doing your job well. That means you're really into it. Right, your turn. What did you like?
Alrighty. No, I'll get it. So honestly, every action scene I think has been like, and the reason why is like it is movie level action in a show. I think that's one of the things that's like so understated about this show is that we are getting like, this is not like a dumbed down, like, how you get like, and no disrespect to the CW shows. The CW shows are awesome, but it's CW level action because the budgets are much smaller. It's like, it's not the show's ambition's fault. It's like those shows actually over deliver given their budget. But this show, it's like, you can tell all the money in the world went into this. And like that scene with the trucks, that was super cool. And funny enough, one of my favorite scenes is from John Walker when he throws a shield and catches his teammate with it. I was like, oh, that was super well done.
That fight scene on the truck, I think it's episode 1. Those two trucks are, oh my god, that's just amazing.
But it was so well done.
And like you said, there's a lot of TV series that I remember, like especially in the 90s and early 2000s, you used to watch those action scenes, and it's like it looks badly choreographed and it looks horrible. And like now you can see that and that's the thing, there's a lot of expectations around us, the Marvel TV series, is that you don't expect a TV series, you're actually watching a mini movie every time. So you can't just phone it and just make those light action scenes. You've got to come out swinging. Pun intended.
Totally.
And you have to deliver that every fight scenes. You can't have a light thing like in the 90s where you'd be like, let me and deliver a couple couple lines and throw one punch and fight scenes over. Now you gotta go big time. You gotta go big production. So I agree. Every action scene is pretty interesting.
Like just yesterday, Aiden was watching The Flash, and it was just funny because I just watched Falcon Winter Soldier and watched The Flash, and I'm like, oh my god, it looks so cheap. And that show's good. It's good in its own right, but it looks so much cheaper, right? And this does not look cheap in any way, which leads me to like one of my favorite things because it ties into this Madripoor. Oh
Yes.
my God. Honestly,
Yes.
it's one of my favorite locations. I actually, outside of Wakanda, it's my favorite look. Wait, let me take that back. No, outside of Wakanda, it's my favorite location in the MCU. I love how Madripoor looks. It's like they brought color and they leaned into the neon, like to make it look weird. It's almost like you feel like that's where Hawkeye, when he was Ronin, would have gone to like off a few people. Like I would have loved a fight scene in Madripoor with Hawkeye as Ronin. That would have been.
I'm sure
amazing.
He went there. I'm sure he did.
Oh yeah, he must have. Right. So like I really love that setting.
And it's a shout out to mutants. X-Men.
Yep.
So, no, I don't want to do this, but yeah. Logan is in there.
The woman that dies, what is it? Kelsey? No. Shelby. So Shelby actually has the ability to talk to computers, which is a shout out to another comic that's really interesting by Brian K. Vaughan. This also has kind of a similar premise. But point being is that I love the setting. It is no coincidence that I found this out only through a podcast I listened to, that it's either the director or he was an executive producer on that third episode was the guy that created John Wick. And that's why that's got that feel. It's got such John Wick vibes. And that's what I'm like, third episode is my favorite one by a country mile, even though it actually doesn't have a huge action scene like the first two. The action scene is much more subdued. It's more like hand-to-hand combat. It's not like cars and all sorts of stuff that happens in the first one, like the big flying scene and stuff like that, which was really cool. But this is more grounded. But I am so there for it when they activate the beepers and everybody's like bounty on their head. I'm like, oh, John Wick shout! Like,
that was directly John Wick. That was such a shout out.
So excited about that. So I love those little homages. Like they're so nicely done in tactful way, but at the same time, it doesn't derail the plot, just makes the setting that much more interesting. So yes, there for Madripoor. Let's go back to Madripoor a lot, Marvel Universe.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
And then the next one that I'll touch on is Isaiah Bradley. Because this was new to me and now I really want to nerd out on it. Because when they revealed it, I'm like, oh, so this guy was a super soldier. Oh, okay. And I had no context. I was some people as soon as they said we're going to Baltimore, Maryland, they guessed they're gonna go see Isaiah Bradley, which are like the deep MC like Marvel nerds like picked up on that. I don't go that deep on Marvel. But now I find out that like the Isaiah Bradley character is based on a comic called Truth, Red, White, and Black, which is when you find out that they did do experiments after Cap on more people to try to recreate the serum. And they experimented on 300 African Americans, of which 299 died during their experiments for the super serum in like apparently in these like horrific ways. And only Isaiah Bradley survived it, only to then be treated the way he was treated, right? So it's like there's a huge story. So I'm definitely picking up that comic, Truth, Red, White, and Black, because it sounds amazing to read.
And there's another series to be made out of this. Like you can or a movie, you can go back and look at that period and make add that to the MCU timeline. Because that'll be super interesting to me. I'd love to know more. Like literally, as they were having the discussion in that episode, I was like, I want to know what happened to this guy. I need to know more about his backstory. I need to know where he comes from. Like, why is he the only one that survived? What has he done once he had the power? Like, what happened to him? There's so many questions that came up when I was watching that scene. There's a movie in there. There's a movie in there. It's got to be.
Oh, dude, yeah, like get like someone baller cast as a young Isaiah Bradley, and just give him an own movie, even if it doesn't like lead to anything. I just want to go back and know about that moment. Like it's so interesting to me now. So yeah, we only got like 5 minutes with Isaiah Bradley, and they were very impactful. The actor's great. Like I think it's Carl Lumley. His acting was awesome. I hope we see more of him. That is one of my hopes. I hope that we see more of Isaiah Bradley. That was an amazing reveal. And which actually I didn't write in here, but some of the thing that I'm kind of enjoying is like all the reveals I know we're not comparing, but I will. All the reveals we wanted in WandaVision if you really think of Falcon Winter Soldier, it's got a ton of reveals.
It
Like
does, yeah. It's got a bunch of...
Sharon Carter. We've got Baron Zemo. We've got Isaiah Bradley, right? We know there's like this power broker, which is, I think, is going to be a big character as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. And of course, we get Ayu from the Dora Milaje at the end of episode 3, another big reveal. I'm like, it's been reveal crazy, man. I'm like, I'm loving it. So yeah, it's been very satisfying that way.
No, there's a lot going on, and it's to the point where you were having earlier on. It's like, are they taking on too much almost? It could. I don't think it could be the downfall. I think it'll be great. I think the more you put in there, again, going back to Civil War's got a lot of reveal there. There's the new Spider-Man, there's Black Panther. Both of those characters are absolutely massive, are being introduced in that film. Yeah. So it's okay to have a lot of reveal and have a lot of stuff stuffed in there, and it will work. And again, it's a long game. Like we'll get more exactly what's going on, who they are, and what they do in a few years. I'm interested in that point you've got in there, Baron Zemo as Joe Pesci. Like, what does that mean?
Okay, so this is something that I cannot take full credit because there's a lot of people making this comparison, but as soon as they said it, I instantly got it, which is, there's of course a Lethal Weapon comparison here. There's no way it can't be. Like,
oh, okay, yeah.
One of my things is like, at some point, Sam going like, I'm too old for this shit is one of the things I really want from this show. I really want that. And you can see it's like Bucky's like the loose cannon, and then Sam is like the straight. So that when that dynamic is happening, I'm very happy. When that dynamic is happening, it's when they're trying to be like confrontational, which is like, I don't like you for these and those reasons. Like, that was never a Lethal Weapon. They were they're being confrontational as the action played out in that jabby sort of way, right? Yeah. But then when they were together, they actually supported each other. Yeah. Like they got so. But one of the things that made that relationship interesting is when they introduced Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci made that movie great because he was the antagonist. Yeah. They were trying to work together, and Joe Pesci would make it harder for them to work together. Yeah. He was always playing both sides. And you can see Baron Zemo doing the same thing. And oh my God, it works so well. That's for me when the relationship now for me got better. I'm like, he's clearly tired of antagonizing him. And the one part when they talk about Marvin Gaye,
yes,
dude, drop the mic. I'm like, that is the dialogue that I live for. Like just them talking about Trouble Man and going like, and then Sam going like, so dude, you're totally out of line, but you're right. it's like it was so well done, man. Like I love that dialogue there. So I love that. He's trying to antagonize both of them. When Bucky's I don't like that music.
When I read that point, I was like, is he talking like, as in the actor is playing as Joe Pesci is playing? Like, because I didn't notice anything like any mannerism or anything. I was like, what's he on about? But yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and the guy playing Baron Zemo is showing some real range, because in Baron Zemo, he played him in like one note. He was always just like serious, and here we're getting like a lot of different takes on Zemo, and like he's very good. Like I'm really enjoying his acting.
Yes, Daniel. What's his face? Daniel Bruhl, I think that's his name.
Something like that. Yeah.
He's a good actor. Actually, he was. I think he's got one of those weird backgrounds, like half Spanish, German, French, whatever. I think he's got like a whole mix of European countries within him. Spanish German. There you go. Just Wikipedia his face. Spanish German actor. But I think he lived in France as well, so I think his French is pretty good. He's a great actor though. He's in a lot of great films. Inglourious Bastard, Rush. He's in Rush as well as Niki Lauda. If you've not watched Rush, it's a great film. It's about Formula One.
He is. That's right. He is Niki Lauda. I forgot. Yeah, no, it's a great film. Very underrated, actually. Surprisingly good movie. Yeah. So speaking of things that are underrated in this series, the music.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's great. I am definitely not saying, but Marvel for me has had an atrocious history of picking bad music. Like not
the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. It's like we're not talking score, we're talking music. The needle drops in most Marvel, like Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Just destroyed it. It was just so bad. It's like when they play like I'm just a girl. I'm like, could you be more literal? Or like the Nirvana song. I'm like, that makes no sense. Like just Captain Marvel fucked that up so much.
Yes.
It still annoys me a lot. They occasionally had those Led Zepp songs come in with like when there was iron. Yeah, exactly. It's like those were like, all right, great, we're doing something. Like, and of course, those Taika Waititi, and of course, Guardians of the Galaxy is just like a separate
Yes.
category. That just.
Yeah.
MCU aside, just movies in general, they have some of the that's one of the best soundtracks ever made. But here they brought in some good music. That was like, oh, like they took a chance and it kind of worked. I'm like, all right, let's get more of that. So I was very happy about that. That especially in episode 3, they had some good music playing. So I was like, all right, cool, that's nice. They're trying it out a bit more.
You're right. It's been a good component or part of the show. And say like I think good music. You if you don't notice the music, or if you don't really pay attention to it, that means it's good. It's a bit like refereeing in sports. Like if you don't see the refs, that means they're doing a good job. If you notice it too much, that means it's like, oof, it can be very bad. And again, Captain Marvel, perfect. I remember being in the cinema watching it, and then like I'm just a girl. When that came up, I went, oh no, you're just taking me out of the action scene right there. You just took me out. Like I should be enjoying watching Captain Marvel beating like cracking heads and stuff. And then no, I was like, no, don't do that.
Or even I had to make this about Captain Marvel because like, that movie should have been better. That it deserved to be better. I think is the point that I'm trying to make. Like her having like I think it's like a Soundgarden T-shirt. I'm like, but why?
But why?
Like they try to do like 90s Easter eggs. I'm like, but they made no sense. So they're stupid Easter eggs. So I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of things about the movie that I was not happy about.
Anyway, not about Captain Marvel.
Not about Captain Marvel. Yes.
Anything else you want to add to your I like list?
No, I think I'm happy to pivot into I don't like. I think we've veered into that territory very organically.
I think we sort of touch upon a lot of the stuff we didn't like already, so we can reiterate like unless there's something you want to really.
No, there is some new stuff that I want to touch on.
Okay. Let me get mine out of the way. So because I've already talked about it. Really, the two biggest points, like I think episode 1 and 2 are a bit slow. I've sort of touched upon that a little bit already. Could have mashed that up into one. And I think the second one, which is it's not the show's fault, but it's the WandaVision experience, which is of the quality of WandaVision and how much we got involved in that show, and how many Easter eggs and how many things that were going on, and so many different levels. Yeah, it's spoiling a little bit my enjoyment of the Falcon. And again, nothing to do with the quality of the show itself. They're doing everything absolutely right to me. Yeah. But it's just that we went through this now with WandaVision, and I'm trying to take myself out of the Easter egg hunt mode and trying to get not to read into too much into what's going on. And it's nice to do that, and to be able to do that, but it's also I'm a little bit annoyed because it's spoiling the experience for me. And I would love to be looking into like the Easter eggs and looking into who that character is, but somehow I find myself that I can't. Like I'm just looking at it, I'm like, I like that guy. I'm not gonna go online and look it up. I don't want to look him up because I'm gonna set myself up to certain expectations and see some certain people drop into the episodes, and when that's not happening, I'm gonna go, oh, yeah, that's it, and that's it.
Fully agreed around like the power broker conversation, because I don't know if that has any reference in the comic. I actually purposely tried not to look into that one because I'm like, it'll spoil a show for me, and I don't want to. And on the flip side, it's like I am enjoying the references, like the Isaiah Bradley, even though it's technically, I think it's technically it could consider it being an Easter egg, I guess. But I love that has set up something for me to go read, and I'm like that I love, because now I'm going to go do something, and it's not given because I don't know what happens. If Isaiah Bradley was ever part of a storyline as like old man Isaiah Bradley, that I don't know. The storyline I'm aware of is like when he's young and he becomes a super soldier, and that I'm there for. But whether that's going to be the case or not, I don't know. And of course, if we get into that conversation, like there's already people speculating about like Cap's going to show up, like Chris, like old man Cap's going to show up, and I'm like, sure, if he does, he does. He doesn't, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm enjoying it for what it is, and I 100% agree with you. 100%.
Same. Like I'm taking it as like I want to see some stuff blow up. I want to see some a couple good one-liners. I want to see how the relationship evolves, and that's what I'm there for. I don't want to go as deep as I don't want to go in as deep as I did with WandaVision, like looking into absolutely everything. And when I look back at a bunch of videos we did, or podcasts we did, I'm like, this the one I was listening back to. What was it? Episode the Trick or Treat episode in WandaVision, when they all get dressed up and they go, and I'm like, there's that one thing that everybody picked up on. There's like Vision's talking about something, and then he crosses his arms and he makes the shape of an X. I'm like, see, I don't want to go into that anymore. I don't want to. Anyway, you get the point. I'm trying to stay light. What you got? What's your dislike like?
Well, I think I've covered dialogue between Bucky and Sam. Like, I'm not happy with how they're and so. But it leads into my second point that I don't like. That is relevant. Is that it's not that I dislike their acting. I think they're very good. They're doing great acting. It's just the lines they're writing for them, I think, aren't great. But the one thing that I caught myself being very surprised at by episode 3, which I was not expecting. I went into this episode already emotionally invested in Sam, because he has that moment with Cap where it's like he gives him the shield and he goes, it feels like it's someone else's. And we start off with him like giving away the shield. So I was like immediately invested in Sam. And then that just dropped. I'm way more invested in Bucky. And I wasn't expecting that. And I'm kind of not happy about that. Not because I don't like Bucky's storyline. I really like Bucky's storyline, but I feel like they're like screwing over Sam. If you look at episode 3, which is still my favorite episode, but unfortunately Sam's a sidekick the whole time. Like I got way more enjoyment out of Baron Zemo and Bucky. Bucky like reverting back to Winter Soldier mode was awesome scene. Like Baron Zemo doing his Baron Zemo thing was amazing. And Sam was just there for the ride. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like give Sam more. Give him more.
He's slightly,
he's getting screwed a little bit. He's
underwritten as hell in that one. It's just and that's to me, that's the biggest surprise I've had in those 3 episodes so far. Is that like you're right. It's the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we're saying very little in terms of Sam and the Falcon and who he is. And I thought the show would be a lot more on him, like about him. And he will be more of an active character in it. And right now, it's like you say, he's a sidekick. It's just odd to see him that way. But again, I think there's a reason for it. In the first 3, I think that's going to pay off in the last couple of episodes where predictions. But I think there's going to be a reverse in dynamics, and he's going to be coming out as the leader.
Yeah, I hope so. Because we got 3 episodes to go. Even though they're long episodes, so we technically have like a 2-hour and 15-minute movie left to watch. So you can do a lot in a 2-hour, 15-minute movie. So I hope that they turn that around a bit. Because that was one that it has annoyed me, but at the same time, like the Bucky storyline, I'm super into, which is awesome. And then I didn't actually have it on the list, but it's one thing that I touched on it earlier. I feel like I need to give it service. Is that I'm happy to introduce Sharon Carter. Like I generally am. I thought some of the characters that I felt I needed to have her come back. I love that she's like rogue and like has like paintings that are supposed to be like the originals of like the fakes that hang in museums and stuff. All that was super cool. Like she's like managing the criminal underworld, being a badass. And then they give her a fight scene, and one of the worst edits I've ever seen, when they cut away from her to someone with a hoodie for no reason.
Yes,
everyone's butt. And I'm like, oh, come on, Marvel. You got all the money in the world. Just give Sharon Carter a couple of like kung fu lessons or something, man. I'm sure she can fight. Like, I'm sure she can fight. And you can make the edits look good. And they just blatantly put in a stunt person with a hoodie. I'm like,
hell yeah.
Or just, I don't know. There's all sorts of ways they could have done that. And that scene really let me down.
It was like surprising. It was surprising though.
Sharon Carter gets to be a badass, and like you like don't show her face. So,
yeah, I think I we'll talk about Sharon Carter. I think it maybe in the next review when it's all done. But I think she could be a great character moving forward. in the MCU. She has the potential. She's a great actress anyway, but her story deserves more. I also want more from her. I want to know who, well, we know who she is, but I want to know more of her backstory and where she was during those last 2 years, because she was in hiding in Madripoor, and but like, how did she get to that status she's got there? She looks like she's well connected, and there's a lot to talk about with her.
And has she processed the fact that she made out with her great uncle?
Yes, which is still the weirdest thing ever.
It's still with the elephant in the room, man, that no one's talking about, and I feel like we need to address it, Marvel. So it's the Luke Leia kiss. It's like it's a thing.
they've got to appeal to people in Alabama, right?
And there goes a part of our users. I mean, of our listeners.
I'm kidding. We love you. Anyway, anything else? Anything else you didn't like?
No, if you were going to pick on someone, pick on Arkansas. Arkansas is being very backwards this week with some of their latest legislation. Very backwards.
I take it back, Alabama.
Yes, let's pick on Arkansas. The only one I got is a small one. The ad, the Global Repatriation Council ad.
GRC.
Just janky. They just dropped it in there for like no good reason. I mean, it's for good reason, but it just felt really odd. I didn't enjoy that. I was like, do you
think that's something they filmed afterwards and went, oh my god, the ads in WandaVision are amazing, let's drop an ad in there too?
I kind of feel that they leaned into that. I'm like, no, don't lean out, dude. There's no reason to story why we needed that. So
I agree. It felt out of place. It felt out of place. Yeah, I was like, why?
Which is a good pivot to all the open plot points, man. Like, I don't know how they're going to land all this stuff, because that's an open, like the Global Repatriation Council is like, that's a plot point they open. Now we want to know what that's about. And I'm like, are they going to get to that? So there's like, I'll just list them. We can talk through them. It's like, they opened up the plot point around the Flag Smashers. What's going to happen? Are they good or are they bad? There's a plot point clearly between Sam and Captain America. There's going to be a time where Sam and John Walker are going to have a fight. And I'm so there for that.
Please. Yes, please.
They opened up, but they leaned in hard in the first episode, Bucky's PTSD. And I will say, while not liking the therapy scene, I do love the therapist. The therapist is awesome.
Yes,
I would gladly see it like a show about that therapist, because she's so badass. Like, she's like, you guys just sit down and talk. I really like her. And then they opened up another one around Zemo, right? Yep. Right. So Zemo's escaped, and then Wakanda's after him. So they opened up Wakanda, and then they opened up the Power Broker, who I think. Spoiler, I think that the power broker is Sharon Carter, but let's just park that. And then they opened up like Sharon Carter's backstory as well, right? It's like Sharon Carter and Madripoor. That's another plot point. I'm like, they're opening up a ton, man. They need to start landing some stuff, because I feel this show is, well, I'm really enjoying it. It's becoming about too many things. And there's something to said about like, I take it they're taking inspiration from like the James Bond shows, or like Bourne Identity. Those shows those movies tend to be about a lot of things all at once, but not this many things. This is a lot of things that they've set up. So your point's like, some of these I think will not be tied up, and I'm kind of okay with that, but then you start landing a few of them.
They'll land a few of them, but I think it's going back to the point I had at the start, which is you've got to be patient with those. Yeah. Some of them will get answered. But most of them won't, and those will get payoff for those in the next 4, 5, 6 years, whenever they decide to talk about those, whenever those points are addressed in future movies. And I'm okay with it. It's fine that way, and actually it's even better that way, because I prefer that they answer those questions later down the line. And it's okay. Like, it's okay to get payoff much later on. Like, I don't want them to rush into anything. They'll be like, well, the power broker is your mom, whatever. Yeah. It's like, they throw a character you never heard about. Like, I'd rather they take their time and we get an answer, by the end of the show, and it's somebody, like you said, maybe Sharon Carter. That'd be cool. So I'm not too worried about them throwing too much in for now. It's okay because of the setup, because of it being a Marvel show within a much wider universe. So I'm okay with that. They I think can handle that if somebody could do it. Anyway, pivot. No, don't pivot.
Pivot to predictions, because that I think I kind of predicted a little bit the Sharon Carter thing, and I'll tell you why.
Exactly.
I think that might be the case as we go into like a predictions segment of the show. Is that one, Sharon Carter was, at least in my view, was the sniper that took out Selby.
Yes, agreed.
How did Sharon Carter know that to take her at that moment? The power broker had been notified that they were there.
Yeah.
Was it Sharon Carter? Second is when she walks away afterwards and then jumps into her fancy car and gets driven off. She's like, we got a problem, actually 2 of them or something like that, she says. And I'm like, So if they set up Sharon Carter as a big bad, I would be so happy, dude. So happy to see that. Because I think it's just justice for her, right? It's like she gets to have like a proper moment in the MCU, and I think that would be awesome for her because she's a cool character and she acts well.
She's a cool character, and then you make the stakes even higher with Sam and Bucky, because they have that relationship going back to all those movies ago, and that's great. That's great to have her like being this. Oh, she almost came off as a goody in Civil War, like even the other movie she was involved in. I was like, oh, she's squeaky clean, and she's Carter's niece or whatever, and it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. You know, she's so nice, and she's MI6 or whatever, CIA or FBI, wherever she works for these days. And then bang, massive turnaround. She's now a baddie. That would be great. I'll be happy if that's something that turn out to be true. Then well done. But it'll be great. It'll be great.
I think it rather than like, oh, look at what like the fans figured out. It's more like it's a smart idea. It's a smart idea to do it. Yeah. That's why it shows good writing. I'm like, I hope that comes around, because yes, of course, it to your point earlier about the implications of things, it's still the implications of Civil War. It's like they make it very clear. Bucky was pardoned by the president. Sharon Carter wasn't. Like no one cared about her, right? Yeah. So I'm like, of course she'd go off and be pissed off. And she's managed to get into like the criminal underworld. Yeah, why wouldn't she rise up the ranks and just like she doesn't have a country she can go to. So I'm like, yeah, of course she'd be pissed off. So I'm like, it's good motivation.
And you know what I like about that prediction is that there's a lot going for it that makes sense, and it's not it's not literally like some idiot saying that we'll get Doctor Strange at the end of WandaVision. Now this one is more based in reality. It will make sense in terms of how people would react to a situation like you basically you're turned away by your country, and you've got all this knowledge of how criminals interact and how they behave. Yeah, and now you belong nowhere. So where are you gonna go? To a place where everything is crap. So you're all trying to make it as high as you can there, and trying to be running it. Correct. Makes sense to me.
Or shout out to David Sago. The power broker is Mephisto, buddy.
Oh yes. Imagine that. That would be. I think people would just unsubscribe from Disney Plus right away. That's the case. Or Agatha, like freaking Agatha.
Oh my god, they have like an Agatha. If they have a montage where it's like, it was Sharon all along, that would be so funny.
That would be the best thing ever.
But so should we move into your predictions then?
Yeah, I had one which was a light one. Where you said we'll get who was it? We'll get Sam to say. What do you say? You'll get Sam to say something. What was it?
Sam will say, "I'm too old for this shit."
Yeah. No, well, one of my predictions that Bucky will say, "I can do this all day." Which that
would be pretty sweet.
I would love to see that. There's a fight scene, something happens, and bang, he gets knocked down, and it's like, oh, I can do this all day. And be like, yes, you're Captain America. Moving on to my next prediction, which would be Sam will be the new Captain America. But I think after our conversation, I think they'll share the role of Captain America, as in like having the shield in the fight scene. Yes, between the two of them. But my biggest prediction out of all of this is, I think Sam will end up. I'm not going to say no. He might be forced into the role, but I think he'll understand what it means and what it's about, and he'll embrace it, and then he end up being Captain America because he knows he's the only one that's got the the same way of thinking, share the same values as the original, as Steve Rogers, Captain America. And I think, and that's why it's not a prediction; it's more of a wish. I want to see him taking it. I want to see him be Captain America. So I was really excited at the end of Endgame for it, and I want to see that.
It's for me, it's just like what tips him in that direction. That's the part.
Yes.
Like I feel
That's
like
it.
there's a lot of options there of what tips him in that direction. It's like it's a fight with John Walker. It could be a conversation with Isaiah Bradley to like make amends for what happened to Isaiah Bradley. It could be Chris Evans showing up as old Captain America, going like, "No, Sam, it was always you." Right? It's like,
are you gonna take the job or what?
Yeah,
I've told you once.
It's like, was I not clear? No, watch him show up. It's like, Sam, did I fucking stutter? It's like I told you it was you.
Can you stop now? Just take the job.
So yeah, I think that it's a case that he will become it, but it's how, or does he share it with Bucky somehow, right? It's like, are they team Captain America sort of thing, right? It's like
Batman and Robin,
yeah, because the whole dynamic of them together like works when they're doing that, right? It's like when they're fighting together, it's like it's cool.
I still think there's room for Sam to be Captain America and Bucky to remain Bucky.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? In the dynamic and the relationship, I still think Captain America needs Bucky, and I don't know if Bucky's polished enough, if you know what I mean, to be Captain America. I think Sam is got the attributes that you need, the main characteristics to be Captain America, and I think that's more him. It relates more to him than Bucky.
They'd have to resolve Bucky's PTSD, like a lot quicker. Not that he can't do it with PTSD, because it should, but at the same time, it's like it's made it very clear that that's his journey to overcome in this show, right? They're like when he was forced to become Winter Soldier again, you can tell like there will be implications to that. So and that's where when you figure out how that gets resolved or not. So that could, or maybe he becomes White Wolf, because they've alluded to that. Right, it's like
he was mentioned as White Wolf. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, exactly.
White Wolf, so
maybe that's it.
And that's exactly that's a good point. That's something that he could be, moving towards, like actually embrace that role, be that, and then let Sam be Captain America.
Yeah, yep, for sure.
Anything else prediction wise? What you got?
Prediction wise, I think that the bad guys will not be the Flag Smashers.
Agreed.
I think that's a bit of a red herring. I think that will set up other things. I think that Bucky at some point will have the shield in his hands. He will pick it up in some way or other, and there will be a moment for him. And this is way more of a long shot, and I don't think it's going to happen. Isaiah picks up the shield, Isaiah Bradley. And my God, I would be so happy if that happens. But no, besides that, I think that's the only predictions I had going into it. Looking forward to what happens next with it, man. It's a super fun show.
It's a great show. It's very different. Again, that was part of my it's not WandaVision, so people need to remember that it's not the same thing. So enjoy it for what it is. It's a very different ride. So that's why I'm taking it differently, and that's why I'm analyzing, looking into it a lot more differently than I was with WandaVision. But yeah, I think that's that. I think we'll do the same for episode 4, 5, 6, as I said earlier on. I think it'll be good to do a review of the entire series, or the second part of the series, and then see what we thought about it overall and where this leads us. Maybe we can get Dave. Maybe, do you think he's?
Heck yeah!
Watching, we can get him to chime in. But yeah. I think that's it. I think we should stop it here. I think we've covered everything that had to be covered. I thought it was interesting. But yeah, so JC, thanks for joining in this lovely, I think it's episode, how many episodes have we done? Like, it must be our 40th episode or something like that. We're not that far.
Oh, we need to count, actually.
We've done quite a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for having all those points ready and getting us through the episode 1, 2, and 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Well, and thanks for holding down the fort last week with the Women's History Month. I heard it was a really awesome ep. So
it was good. If you don't know what that ep was, that was we had Sarah back in talking about Women's History Month. I know it was in March and we released it in April, but that's fine, doesn't matter. And we had a bit of recommendation episodes. We love those. We talk about Buffy, X-Files, anything that had an awesome, strong lead female character in it. So video games, movies, TV series, comics, anime, the whole lot. And we're trying to keep it short and sweet, about an hour long. And we there's room to do a lot more. I think we thought there was a lot more to be talked about, and that's great. There will be a part 2, I think, at some point. We'll revisit that subject. I think there's a lot of strong characters out there that have to be discussed and talked about. Anyway, in the meantime, thank you to everyone who's been following us also on social media. We've got about 1,200 now followers on Instagram. We've crossed the 400 followers step in on Twitter. Again, don't look for us on Facebook. We're not there. We are there, but we're just there. We don't look at it. And LinkedIn. Yes, I love LinkedIn. Maybe I'll put your sponsorship deal right there. But that's it. If you want to listen to more of our older episodes, go on Apple Podcasts. We're there. We're there on Spotify. We're on PodBean, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you think there's a podcast, we'll be there. So that's it. Again, thank you, JC, for joining us. We'll catch you guys in the next episode, maybe next week at some point. We don't know what we're talking about yet, but we'll figure it out.
Awesome. Androids, aliens, and wizards.